Hello everybody and welcome to another amazing video of DIY investing. After over a month, Bitcoin has finally broken from the range and we now have confirmation over the direction of Bitcoin. Although the market has had a bearish breakdown, this is still an encouraging sign because we are still above 25K. Over the next couple weeks, are we ultimately going to hold this as support, or is this going to end up turning into further downside before we see a bigger sell-off in price? I have a lot of really important charts to share with you guys, so make sure you stay all the way to the end so that you don't miss out on any of this information. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and with that being said, let's jump right into this amazing video today. Now, for you guys that don't understand why we are seeing this big sell-off, it has everything to do with the fact that the SEC is currently bullying the crypto companies. The SEC has gone out and they have filed a lawsuit against Binance, which is the leading crypto exchange in the entire world, and they've also filed a lawsuit against the CEO, Changpeng Zhao. So, with that being said, today we woke up and there's another lawsuit against Coinbase. And so, we're seeing the SEC go full-blown against crypto right now. And, you know, it's not really anything that we haven't seen up to this point. We know that the SEC has their ulterior motives against crypto. And so that's actually why we're seeing this extended sell-off today. The last couple days, we saw a lot of sell-side pressure around these lawsuits, and there's just a lot of FUD as a whole. Now, here's the interesting thing, guys. Now, what we've been watching for a while now has really been whether this support was going to hold or whether it was going to turn into resistance. And as you guys can tell by this SEC lawsuit, we got rejected at our last support, and we have now fallen back below resistance. And so as it stands, this support level is now going to act as resistance, and we have to pay attention for that moving forward. Now, in the shorter time frames, guys, we're at an interesting point, and I like to compare this point to really the last two attempts at a breakdown that we saw, which was here and was here. Now, if you guys remember, we were consolidating on this support, and we saw two different attempts at a breakdown from this range, and both attempts instantly got bought up, and that was here and here. Now, that led us into this false breakout. We had this attempt at a breakout. We fell back down onto trending support, and in my last video, I talked about how we were either going to get back above this resistance here and see continuation like this, or this was going to end up rejecting, and then we were going to fall back down to a new low. And as you guys can tell, with the added influence of all of the SEC FUD, we saw that sell-off that took us back down to the range lows. Now, as it stands, we're consolidating right here at this wick of both of these breakdown levels, but the difference here is this breakdown took us to a lower low, and we're now technically closing below our candle bodies, even below the wicks of those breakdown points. So as it stands, if we're looking on a bigger time frame, it looks more bearish. We did lose our support, and on top of losing that support, we've already built this descending resistance that we've pretty much been hugging the entirety of this consolidation. So as it stands, guys, we really need to be pretty cautious about this breakdown, because this easily could be the breakdown that leads us into a much bigger lower low. And that's kind of the thing that we've been watching. We knew that this support level was either going to hold and lead us into one final blow off top, or it was going to break down and lead us into a multi-month correction. And that was kind of the way that I've been playing the market. And so I was leaning towards a bullish thesis up here. We broke down and lost support, and so, you know, naturally we have to adjust our bias and then actually look to target downside. Now, what I've been updating you guys with for a long time, really the entire time that we've been inside of this consolidation, if we were to see a breakdown of this support range, where was that going to take us? Well, the area we always target inside of a consolidation and a correction has always been the 618. And the 618 is going to be taking us to about $21,500. So if we are to see a deeper correction that takes us all the way back into this prior market structure, my target's the 618 being 21,500. But technically, we're still above this 25K level. And so I think it's important that we're factoring in a few different things. Now, my first target of support that I was talking to you guys about was basically this level here at about 24,000. Now, I think that if we are to make another lower low, this is going to be the most obvious level that we need to come and tag, because this is going to be taking us back into contact with those August highs, and then also with the January and February highs over in here. And so for us to come back down, break down from this support, I won't be surprised for us to come back down and tag this level. And then from there, that'll kind of dictate whether we see a deeper correction back down to that 618 or whether we can actually hold above here at this 25K level. Because I still think that this is a very important level that we need to hold. Now, I was expecting that we were going to hold it up in here after we had both of these attempts at a breakdown that got bought up. But obviously, anytime we have added influence being the FUD with the SEC lawsuit, it's impossible to predict those sort of things. And we have seen a sell-off. And so as it stands, technically we're still at that exact same level of our last two breakdowns, being this wick here, and we're really just consolidating right at that level again. The problem is, because we did have such a big breakdown, to me, I don't think that, it's going to play out in a similar way that both of these did, where it just instantly bounces. Although it is possible, being the fact that the only reason we did see this sell-off is because it was an SEC lawsuit. So anytime there's a big FUD event that comes out, it's impossible to predict the market, because sometimes that big sell-off can get bought up really quickly. Sometimes that's actually the shifting point of a bullish trend into a new bearish one. And we've talked about that. If we are to see a shifting point and for us to move into a new short-term bearish trend, then this is obviously going to continue to break down from here, and we would expect a sell-off back down to the 618. However, we do have this level being, roughly the 382, and then I would say just a little bit lower than that 382, taking us to about $24,000 even. I won't be surprised to see us hold support around those August highs, and then for us to finish that reversal and do something along the lines of this. But, I don't really know the exact direction the Bitcoin market wants to take, although I am leaning towards a bearish one. We had the support level for a long time. I updated you guys with it consistently, talking about pretty much the same analysis. And so now that we broke down from that level, the obvious thing is just simply to target the downside. And I think that that's going to continue to be the route that I'm taking, at least in the short term, because we don't have any real confirmation by any means. Technically, we're still below our last support level. And so as long as we're below this, we would expect to see this reject. The problem with this entire sell-off being such a big FUD event, these sort of things can rebound really quickly. And if we rebound to this same support level again, being about 26,130, if we reclaim this again, then we're once again just right in the exact same range that we always have been, and nothing has changed. And so that's why I say that we're kind of in tricky territory where we don't have any confirmation by any means. We can really go either way, but I am leaning towards a breakdown just because of the fact, our support level broke down. So if we were to see a reversal point, it's all going to be centered around this level being $26,100. If we can get back above that, hold that as support, then I think a very real potential could be in where this is a reversal and we're definitely about to make a run all the way back up to those range highs. The reason why is because, guys, we've spent a long time being at the bottom of this low end range. And so if we are to see this end up being a fake out, rebound above that same support level, I don't think that there's any way that this is going to end up, not providing at least an attempt back up to this range high. Kind of like what we did here, where we bounced off of this twice. Neither of these were able to break down, and then we got to run back up near those range highs. I believe that this will play out in a similar way. If we're unable to break down from this holds a support, and we reclaim the prior support, I think that that's a given that we're going to be running back up to the range highs. And really, it's the same analysis that I've had. The only difference here is we have to factor in what's going to move forward with the SEC lawsuit, with all of this FUD. We talked about a bearish scenario where we end up breaking down from these range highs and then going into a much deeper correction. A deeper correction would be taking us to 24,000, even down to 21,500 if we were to see a complete reset of this entire impulse. However, guys, once again, in the short term, if we reclaim this level, we're still back in the same analysis I've had for the last month. And so nothing really changes. Just wanted to give you guys an update and summarize some of these thoughts. Now, one of the other thoughts here is going to be Ethereum. Now, Ethereum is in really interesting territory, and we're going to talk about the bullish and bearish perspective because I think either one of those is a go. Now, obviously, the bullish perspective is that this is a breakout. We hold a support, and then we start the next impulse, right? And that's what we talked about in that last update. Now, the problem with this is just because we did see this lawsuit, Bitcoin technically is at, a breakdown of support. If we are to lose it right now and reject, then that's a confirmed breakdown. With ETH holding a little bit better support and altcoins as a whole holding better support, ETH is right here at that resistance level, right? So we retested it. We're getting a buyback. We don't have any confirmation. If this continues to get bought up, then this is going to look like more of a successful retest than anything. However, if we are to see Bitcoin break down, this candle get rejected here, make a lower high and then a lower low, I believe the Ethereum itself would be creating something along the lines of this. And this is a pretty consistent pattern that you're going to see at the ending of any impulse, where we do have the very real potential that this impulse can be done based off the fact we do have a pretty clear 5-wave impulse to count. We don't know if this is the confirmed Elliott wave count yet, but it is a count that we're watching. Now, where we're at right now is either two scenarios. In this scenario, we're sitting at the top of a B wave before we have one final lower low into wave C. Or, obviously this is just going to rebound and start going back up again. But the reason I draw with you guys this scenario here is because oftentimes we're going to see support hold for a short term inside of your first A wave, right? Where if you guys notice here, this is the first sell-off we make, the first lower high, if this is a bearish trend, right? So in a first lower high, we're holding support, consolidating, and this is the same type of stuff that happens inside of an ABC correction, where you get the first A wave, it comes down, we hold support and consolidate, we get this lower high, which is a B wave, and this ultimately takes us into one more final lower low into wave C. And the reason I share with you guys this is because the current consolidation for Ethereum does look pretty similar to, your typical ABC correction that we're going to see, which if this is going to play out in a similar way, we'd basically be targeting around the 618 being, 15,000 to about 16,000. That's the target I would be looking for, anywhere from the 0.5 to the 618. And that's what I'm going to be watching if we do see one final sell-off. But, obviously, if this ends up holding support centered around Bitcoin, if Bitcoin ends up holding support, reclaiming the prior one, then at that point we would be looking for Ethereum to more or less just continue to hold the same support that it's at. However, when we look at Bitcoin on a bigger time frame, we remove our drawing tools, the problem with Bitcoin here is on a daily time frame, we've already lost that support, right? This was the level here that we held on. It was the level here we held on. And for us to break down below that and now be closing below candle body support, to me, I'm leaning towards a bearish. To me, I'm leaning a little bit more bearish just because on the bigger time frames we broke down. But on the shorter time frames, we don't have confirmation. As long as we're below our prior support, I'm bearish. With ETH, it's kind of the same thing. Although it's holding up better than Bitcoin, this still looks like it's setting up for the potential of an ABC correction, which would take us to $15,000 and $16,000 per Ethereum. So if BTC loses support, this is also going to lose support. And the total market cap is kind of in, the same sort of place. Nothing has really changed amongst all of these charts. Technically, as Ethereum has actually looked like it has the potential of a breakout of its descending resistance right here, when we look at the total market cap, it's still trending below its descending resistance, and this one looks a lot more bearish than ETH does. This one looks much more leaning towards it would go to the 618, being about 934 billion, which would probably be a pretty sudden drop. We've spent a lot of time consolidating up here at this high range. Now that we've built the descending resistance, if we're to see a breakdown from this support, I think that the last sell-off will be pretty quick. It'll be a big one. And all of the buildup was really us sitting here and consolidating on top of this range for the last month and a half now. So now that we have the confirmation, the true breakdown one way or another, this being a breakdown to the bearish side, I'm leaning towards us going to see continuation to the bearish side of things. But, I'm going to keep you guys updated. The S&P 500 is still breaking out, which is the one thing that tells me that Bitcoin could potentially reclaim this level on the shorter time frames. As it stands, it's bearish. We're below support, so that's, pretty simple. But if we were to reclaim this, I think that a lot of that would have to do with the fact that the S&P 500 is breaking out. Now, the S&P 500 is at our first resistance target, being 43.5. And I honestly wouldn't be surprised if we saw a small pullback here. But to be honest, guys, I'm really expecting that the S&P 500 is just going to start its new bull cycle. When we take it to a monthly time frame, and when we zoom out here and look at the S&P 500, this is just a typical buyback, higher highs and higher lows in the exact same way that literally every single one of these sell-offs of all time have ever been. we're pretty much looking at the exact same thing. All of these are higher highs and higher lows. I believe this is going to go off into a brand new cycle. And so it's interesting to see how the S&P 500 is broken out. It's actually done very, very well, and we're seeing Bitcoin, really performing lackluster. A lot of that was because of the FUD with the SEC. We can't predict those sort of things, which is why I say in the shorter time frames, if we were to see a quick buyback, we reclaim the prior support, then, this entire thing could look like some type of big fake out type of sell-off. However, because we did lose our main level, we have to play it as so, and so I am bearish in the short term because of that. But I'm going to keep you guys updated. Overall, the last chart we're going to talk about is the Bitcoin dominance, sitting at this resistance. I find it interesting that Bitcoin dominance is at resistance, and ETH is holding better support, but it's at this point where if we see Bitcoin break down here, I think Bitcoin dominance is probably going to end up breaking out again, and this will just be some type of short-term consolidation before one final high. Because generally, if Bitcoin sells off, altcoins sell off more, and they outperform Bitcoin to the way down. So we would expect that this would go up again. However, if Bitcoin bottoms here and we reverse this trend and this bearish consolidation, I won't be surprised to see this Bitcoin dominance actually start topping and for altcoins to get a nice rise. But that's kind of the way that I'm seeing the market. Overall, I don't think that there's any clear direction one way or another. We did break down, so that at least gives us an idea as to how to play our trading plan from here. We lost support, so as long as we're below support, we should target to the downside, and that's the way that I'm going to be watching the market. So if you guys found value in this, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of these updates. If you guys want to join the Discord server, follow any of the trades that I post over the cycle. Links are in the description for that. Thank you guys so much for the support. I appreciate you guys, and I look forward to seeing you guys inside of that next video. As always, peace out.